We're not yet in week 1 of the regular season for the Seahawks, but we do have an official 53-man roster. That can definitely change as the season goes throughout all 17 of its long regular season weeks. But we have an initial roster. So why don't we take a look at that? Obviously, this is a lot. We'll have all of the names for you on the screens broken down by position. But let's just take a look at some of the more notable ones as we go down through just, I guess, every position.
I mean, looking at, of course, the quarterbacks here, we knew what we were going to have there in that position. Of course, it's Geno Smith and Drew Lock. Moving on to our running backs, we have Rashad Penny, DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, Kenneth Walker III. For receivers, of course, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, D. Eskridge, Marquise Goodwin, Penny Hart, Derek Young. Tight ends, Will Dissly, Noah Fant, Colby Parkinson. Offensive line, we have, of course, our Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas, Jake Kernan, Stone Forsythe, Gabe Jackson, Damian Lewis, Phil Haynes, Austin Blythe, and Kyle Fuller. So any notable names there that you would like to talk about?
Not necessarily. I mean, like you said, I know that we were going to have Geno. I'm kind of surprised there's no third quarterback on the initial roster. I know that we'll get to the practice squad here, and that's wherein lies the third quarterback. But no, I mean, there's no real surprises to me. The tight end room looks solid. I'm happy with that. I guess to see the receiver room, we look at, obviously Tyler and DK will be there. D. Eskridge, I think this is a really big prove-it year for him because I believe he was drafted in 2019 or 20, and things just haven't really worked out so far, or maybe even 2021. But I know he's kind of like, he's been on this team, he hasn't produced. And whether that be injury or whatever, who's the third wide receiver in that spot? Is it going to be him? Does he shut my mouth? Or maybe Marquise Goodwin, who's been a guy that's impressed through training camp, is someone that takes that spot. Derek Young makes a 53-man. I know we talked about Bo Melton. The running back room, it looks like a solid running back room if it stays healthy. Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker, obviously guys that are supposed to be leading that room, but DJ Dallas is someone that I've liked through the preseason. Offensive line, Charles Cross is going to be on this roster for a long time, I feel like. And from what I can understand is that Abe Lucas has been kind of working the starting right tackle spot. So you're going to have rookie tackles, but I think that if you can really make something out of them, you're going to have some bookends on the offensive line for a good amount of time. So that's solid, right? That's not something we necessarily had with Russell Wilson ever. Kind of funny that came via a trade where we got those picks.
Right.
But no surprises to me on offense necessarily. There are some guys that got cut and didn't come back that I was kind of like, I mean, I would have imagined you'd be on the roster in some capacity, but I'm not necessarily surprised that you're gone.
Well, and there were some that they planned on getting back on the practice squad, right? But it didn't pan out that way.
Different situations. Guys might want to try out different spots, more of an opportunity somewhere else. So, again, to me, not necessarily anything. Did anything surprise you?
No, and you say prove it year, and honestly, it kind of feels like that for the team as a whole. I know people were surprised by DK Metcalf not making the top 100. Yeah. So it just kind of feels like a prove it year for several players, even if it's not your first time playing. So
yeah, and I think that's important in the light that this is a team that I know they said they want to be competitive. But this is like there's not this guy wearing number 3 on offense. There's not this guy wearing number 54. You've got your opportunity to really stand out and stick out and be the face of this team. So I look at it in that regard in a way, because it's like, all right, which one of you is going to step up and command more money, more respect, more of a leader, more of a role, right? Because it's like, hey, I don't think anything's given right now.
Right.
So it'll be really interesting to see that.
Yeah, we move on to our defensive line. Puna Ford, Al Woods, Brian Moan, Miles Adams, Quentin Jefferson, Shelby Harris, LJ Collier, Linebackers, Jordan Brooks, Cody Barton, Nick Bellore, Daryl Taylor, Uchenna. Okay. Uchenna Nwosu.
Boye Mafe.
Yes, I knew I was going to say it right, but I wanted to emphasize it. But thank you.
I told you didn't have to go through all the names.
Cornerbacks, of course, Kobe Bryant, Artie Burns, Sidney Jones, Michael Jackson. Wow.
I know that got some, like there was a, when the Seahawks posted the 53-man roster on Facebook, there was like a lot of laugh emojis on Michael Jackson. Yeah. They're like, I hope he moonwalks if he gets a pick six or something.
Goodness. And then we move on to our safeties: Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams, Josh Jones, Ryan Neal, specialist Michael Dixon. Is that there's a name that's been getting a lot of I don't know if it might not be it, but there's been a name that's been getting a lot of attention, and I'm not sure if it even falls in the NFL. So we'll skip over that. Anywho, anybody there that's notable to you?
No, it's funny with the specialists because if there's three guys, they didn't bring another punter in or kicker or long snapper. They just had their specialist room. They kept it. Safety, no, Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams are going to be your guys. Ryan Neal has been a guy that's contributed when one of those guys has been injured. The cornerback room is a little bit intriguing to me because obviously Mr. Bryant's there. You look at that list. You've got Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen are guys that are rookies and they could get significant playing time. Sidney Jones, Justin Coleman are guys that have been around the league a decent amount. Coleman had a career year in Seattle in 2018, I believe it was. Mike Jackson and John Reed are guys that have been in the league but haven't really seen like decent success. Michael Jackson, I thought, played really well in the preseason. Linebacker is interesting because it's like, okay, and there's a guy that's not on that list that we're used to seeing. Who steps up? You've got Jordan Brooks, I'm sure will be your inside linebacker, but with the 3-4 defense, Nwosu, Mafe, Robinson, Taylor will be guys that are rushing. So who's, because it's 3-4, four linebackers. Who's your other inside? Is it going to be Cody Barton? It'll probably be Cody Barton, just looking at it now. I wouldn't expect Nick Bellore to get too much play there because he's been used more as a fullback.
Okay.
He's kind of like that weird hybrid.
Yeah.
D-line's interesting. Shelby Harris, from that Russell Wilson trade, Poona Ford's a guy that sticked out. Al Woods has been a veteran that's contributed just about everywhere he's been. Quentin Jefferson back with the Seahawks. LJ Collier, though, we talked about it, I think, last week or maybe the week before, and this is a guy that, same with the Eskridge, you're got to produce sooner rather than later, and if you don't, I don't think your chances are going to continue with this team very much after that. So
on the physically unable to perform list, Trey Brown, John Radigan, Ben Burr-Kirven, injured reservist Cody Thompson, Tyreek Smith, LJ Collier, practice squad. We have another Quandre on the team. 2 Quandres.
Yes. I was like, wait, what?
Quandre Mosley, yeah. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Greg Allen, Cade Johnson, Vi Jones, Tyler Mabry, and I'm just going to let y'all read over that list there.
Bo Melton is the one that I was looking for with that. Sean Mannion's going to be our quarterback on the practice squad. He's been there. I think he had a previous stint with Seattle. But Bo Melton's the one that sticks out to me on that list just because I was like, hey, is Derek Young or Bo Melton going to make this list, or one of those guys will end up on the practice squad?
Right.
Bo Melton ends up on the practice squad.
Notable roster cuts that didn't come back. Jacob Eason. I know there was a lot of surprise on that one. So
I was a little bit surprised. I would have hoped that he would have made the practice squad just because he's a local guy. Right. He spent a year at UW. He signed with Carolina, I believe. So interesting there. I mean, that's its own interesting quarterback debacle.
Yeah.
Aaron Fuller's also a UW guy. Freddie Swain is a guy that's contributed for this team. I think he had 4 touchdowns in 2020 with the Seahawks. He didn't have a bad year last year, but I think Marquise Goodwin might have eked him out of that spot, as well as some of the younger guys like Melton, like Young. And then Marquise Blair. I really liked Marquise Blair coming out of college. He was a really hard hitter, athletic, but he just had some horrific injuries. I think knee stuff, and just like it was like back to years. I think he got injured in the first game against in the Monday night game. I think it was Sunday night against the Patriots in 2020, and then 2021 early on in the season, another season-ending injury early on. It's like back-to-back years with something like that. It's tough.
That is tough.
And with with the way that money goes and with the way that, you bring in younger players, you might be the odd man out. Yeah. So it's tough there.
Team claims 2 players off of the waivers on cut day, Isaiah Dunn from the New York Jets and Daryl Johnston from the Carolina Panthers. So we'll move on to some league news here. Of course, we're facing the Denver Broncos in week 1. Well, the Denver Broncos decided they wanted to keep Russell Wilson for a few years. He inked a 5-year extension worth $245 million, including $165 million guaranteed, and becomes the second highest paid player per year in NFL. So
it was really interesting to me with this deal because it's a lot of money, right? And you're like, okay, if he was still on this team and he wanted to stay, that's a lot of money to command. Yeah. Even exactly. Would John Schneider and Pete Carroll said, yeah, let's give him that kind of money. The talk about it, I think the way that it's structured is it does give Denver some room to bring guys in. And then the press conferences are like, oh, we wanted to be able to bring guys in. We wanted to be able to we wanted this a spot to be for free agents and stuff. I'm like, okay, Russell. I don't know. I know that there was some talk these last few years where Russell said he would restructure his contract for Dwayne Brown, but I don't know. It's really interesting, just with the way the contracts go and having to pay guys. Hey, that's Denver. That's Denver money, and we'll have to face them coming up here.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. So just like you said, we'll face them September 12th. Denver Broncos coming here. That's a 5:15 p.m. game, and it's our Monday Night Football game of the week. So
it's like one of the only games we'll get on primetime this year. So let's enjoy it, I guess.
And I know we'll be back here the game day, but I'm going to ask you now, how do you think that game pans out for us?
This is a bad roster, but I think just because of the way the game is, Pete Carroll always gets his team up for games like this. I think there'll be some fight. I think it'll be closer than people imagine it to be. I'm hoping it'll be a 1-possession game. But I think it'll be scrappy.
Yeah.
I think the Seahawks will be scrappy in this one. But I think this is like their Super Bowl. This is the biggest chance they're going to get.
Yeah.
Probably all year. So that's where I'm looking at it with this.